Alrighty, we are moving on to blue. And our first blue card is a oddball, Coveted Falcon. Coveted Falcon is an artifact creature bird that costs 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue. It is a 1/4 with flying, and says whenever Coveted Falcon attacks, gain control of target permanent you own, but don't control. Not entirely relevant to cEDH. Hilarious if you're using this to get back something that has been Gilded Drake, because you get to both keep the Gilded Drake and get your permanent back, or your creature back. Funny, incredibly narrow. Moving on to the next thing, it has a disguise cost, which means you'll be able to cast it face down for 3 and then flip it face up for its disguise cost at any time. And this is where we get to the spicy part. When Coveted Falcon is turned face up, target opponent gains control of any number of target permanents you control, and then you draw a card for each one they gained control of this way. So, what we were thinking, or at least what I was thinking when we saw this, is just give your entire board to your opponent, draw as many cards as you possibly can, and try to win the game. And do this all for a whopping 2 mana on the turn that you attempt to go off. This is landing a little bit into the meme realm of decision making, where you have to claim that luck favors the bold, and you're willing to basically lose in order to go all out for this. Ideally, you tap all your lands, produce all the mana you could possibly produce, and just give everything to your opponent. If this is turn 6 or 7, this could be like 2 mana, draw 10 cards. A lot? Yeah, especially if, I don't know, what kind of blue-based token list could maybe make it. Go ahead.
Having played Joyra in the past, Paradoxical Outcome was a really bonkers card. Sure, it's kind of different in that you are recasting the artifacts and drawing extra, but sometimes just landing a Paradoxical Outcome and drawing for the first 3-4 cards at instant speed was crazy. It was good, it was decent. And here you just need to pay 2 and you can draw a lot. If you think that some decks run Rain of Filth and they just go, well, mostly I would say Gitrog, but maybe others, just tap out Rain of Field all the lands to go all in. I think this is easily playable in that kind of sense of the all-in card, that you just give all the lands, all the tapped rocks that you already used, and you draw a bunch of, like, I mean, people play Necropotence to draw 15 cards in one turn. Sure, they all have their permanents back in the next turn, but what don't you like in paying 2 to draw a bunch to hopefully win? And that hopefully, or maybe you win right away.
You think if you're on this plan, you probably have to play Homeward Path, right?
Sure, but I think Homeward Path just hits creatures.
Oh, is it just creatures? Grand. Yeah. Okay. Gonna hit.
I do like a lot that you can Gilded Drake a commander, for instance, an opposing commander, and then attack, getting your Gilded Drake back, and then still another commander. It's one of my specialists. One of my favorite plays usually is to actually early on deprive, for instance, a Kinnan player of their Kinnan, because it doesn't matter much if you just vault it and then they just next turn play it again with all the dorks they have. But I like your idea with the tokens, actually, giving tokens.
I just don't know what it would look like. I'm having a hard time thinking of what deck that would be. Like Shorakai makes a bunch of 1/1 humans every single time Shorakai activates. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything right now. Do I think you could play it in something that isn't a token deck? Sure. If you're willing to pay 2 mana to draw, 10 cards, there are plenty of cEDH decks that have a high enough card quality that they should be able to win the game if that happened.
I just thought of Yuriko. You just give the unblockables that just did what they had to do, and if you're in Doomsday Yuriko,
Cracks Doomsday
can
piles, yeah.
maybe Bitter Blossom sees play again in some sort of strange list. I think it's quite testable and quite playable, this card.
Yeah, I think it's definitely testable. Again, it lands in the world of this is a joke. Like this is a meme. It's a playable meme. Be careful.
I don't think so.
Like don't. No?
No, I actually I think it's.
You think it's more serious than
I think it's more serious.
Okay.
Well, depending on the deck you are, as in on the amount of colors you have, because in the end, when you are in a 4-color deck or 5-color deck, the card quality is bonkers good. To cut down to 100, please Wizards or Hag or the committee just change this rule. So it could be hard to find a slot for it, but I still see these as early game pay 3 to have it there sitting, and then maybe imagine an opponent is like they tutored Buccaneer to the top and they're about to win in your next turn, and no one has like counter magic for this Malcolm Buccaneer combo, and you already had this sitting down, and you go for it. You tap out, you give all the cards you have, and maybe you try to get something off of it. I don't know.
So you're saying this is time called in the round card. Like your active player time has been called in the round, and it's time to
yeah.
It's time to go all in. You might as well just give away all your permanents and try to find a win. I think another big part of it is it's really difficult to interact with. You lose to deflecting SWAT on the flip up, but if there is no deflecting SWAT available to the table, you are going to draw all these cards, and they won't be able to stop you. So
why would you wait? Deflecting SWAT?
Because it's a target opponent, and you target each of the permanents that you're about to flip up. So it's a triggered ability that does target things. So you can deflecting SWAT and then re-choose all of the targets. So you could either just change all the targets to a different.
I see.
It's also one single opponent that gets them all, which is pretty good.
Yeah. You could, if any viewers out there that like Zedro or Zedru or how you spell it, you could also see it in that way that maybe you are playing some sort of global stacks effect, like a Blood Moon or wherever, and you are just giving them the cards you don't need anymore because they are basically affecting everyone, and draw more because of that.
Yeah.
So
you could. Okay, moving on to one of the best cards we're going to go over today, maybe, for us control players. Final Word Phantom. Final Word Phantom is a 3-mana creature spirit detective. It is a 1/4 for 2 and a blue. It's got flash, so we're already in a good spot. It has flying. Look at you, Timna. And it says during each opponent's end step, you may cast spells as though they had flash. So right away, you can compare this to Leyline of Anticipation, where Leyline of Anticipation gives everything flash. But for one, we don't play Leyline of Anticipation in cEDH, at least not regularly. You can see it in our most recent gameplay video. But Final Word Phantom would have done and contributed to a very similar playstyle, as most of the time when everyone does have flash enabled for their board, either through Leyline, Gandalf, or even Urza's Battlethopter, you will just wait until the end step prior to your turn to actually take your turn and then continue to play the game. Final Word Phantom enables the exact same kind of playstyle, except it is a creature. It has flash, so you don't have to tap out for this and then wait a rotation to take advantage of it. But then also, if you're playing something like Timna Malcolm, you're in a low color, you need an attacker, Final Word Phantom's great. It checks off all the boxes.
Yeah, I love this creature. Costing only 3, being able to flash, surviving Bowmasters, surviving Lightning Bolt, which is actually seeing more and more play. Having played Prophet of Crucifix in the past when it was still legal. I'm fantasizing already on hopefully pulling these with Seedborn out and Thrasius on the Dawnwaker list and see how it can go about it.
Are you going to test this in Dawnwaker?
I will for sure. I don't know if it will make the cut, as in maybe in the end step when you have Seedborn, you kind of just want to activate Thrasius, but maybe you don't. Maybe you actually just drew in the previous opponent's turn, you just drew into the Devoted Druid, and you kind of want it to cast it already or something else. I think I'm having a hard time to find cuts and trying new stuff on that deck, but I will try to test this card there for sure.
Yeah, I play some Is It control lists that I might try this out in, just because one of the worst feelings is looking at your hand and having an option to either play proactively, which is like play a mana rock, okay? But mana rock, all right, talismans, whatever, they cost 2 mana. And that's a lot of mana that could be left up to interact with somebody. If you don't have something like Thrasios in the command zone where you always have an instant speed alternative for mana use, for me, for my example, my Is It list that I play is Jessica Crom. That sucks. That I'm looking at that and I'm like, I guess I just have to pass here because I don't want to tap out and lose the opportunity to just like hard cast a mana drain or something, you know, a swan song.
I think this can see play in Italian control, maybe in Niv Mizzet, and the other 1/6 flying creature that used to see to play
Nimrus?
control.
Nimrus? Yeah, the fairy.
I think it will see play for sure. It's just a matter of finding the decks, or some pilots might just like what the card brings and slam it on a deck that you might not actually waiting for it to.
Could you imagine time gets called in the round, active player goes to end step, and you're like, flash in Final Word Phantom and go for it here? I guess, okay, in terms of one-time flash enablers, Born Upon the Wind is always going to be better, and is getting played in a lot of decks because of that. There are a lot of decks that reach their pinnacle play point and they just cast Born Upon the Wind, give all of their non-creature spells flash, and they go for it. This happens pretty regularly in cEDH. Playing at instant speed has just become part of the format. So Final Word Phantom will be lower on the totem pole in terms of a one-turn pinnacle flash enabler, but for any sort of mid-range product, like just a little bit more productive rather than just waiting for that one time that you can cast the spell, Final Word Phantom will pull above it a little bit, at least on my scale of usefulness. Excited for this one?
Well, we get to this next card, Forensic Gadgeteer, that you might already heard from our shorts recently. It's a 2/3 creature, a Vedalken Artificer Detective for 2 and a blue that reads, whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate. So you create a clue token. And then it has this cool ability, activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. This effect can reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana, like any other reducer. So if you've seen our recent short, you've seen several applications. It's basically combos with Basalt Monolith. It could see play maybe in Kinnan, where you're already comboing with Basalt Monolith as maybe a second piece that you can find.
Yeah, but, I think this is really gonna find a home in Urza, specifically non-poly. If there was ever something that could come out that would help encourage Urza pilots to move away from poly and try non-poly, I think this is it. Forensic Gadgeteer just being a 2-card combo with Basalt Monolith and winning the game with Urza is great. And Well, let's just go one step beyond that and point out that every single time Urza casts an artifact spell, it creates a clue token, and then that clue token can tap and sacrifice itself to draw a card, so it basically cantrips every single one of Urza's artifact casts. This is something very specific to Urza alone. Like, goodness. Yeah. Why play Poly when you can play other really fun cards and more combos? I mean, obviously you'll play, Hull Breacher is still in the 99 of the deck, because why wouldn't you? But Scepter, is it just called, it was just UPS? Or is it?
UPS.
Was UPS Poly Scepter? No, or is it Power Scepter? They were on Power Artifact. I'm thinking the old term of UPS was Power Artifact and Scepter, and then Poly Tyrant, and that took over later. So if we are still calling the non-Poly version of Urza UPS, I think UPS is back on the menu for this set. Now about the Kinnan replacement thing, I've been considering this in some of my lists where I play Kinnan already in the 99. I wouldn't replace Kinnan at all with Forensic Gadgeteer, but it would serve as an alternate. So I'm playing some low-color Thrasios lists that play Kinnan Basalt in the 99 just because, it's a compact 2-card combo. And there's a question in my mind as to whether or not I'll play Forensic Gadgeteer, or at least just test it, for the sake of saying what happens when I have more options other than Kinnan. Because Kinnan's a bit of a high priority target, right away, for most people. Whether or not you have a combo online, if I'm just playing Thrasios and I have some mana dorks, a Thrasios on board with some rocks, if I cast a Kinnan, people will try to interact with it just because it is so much mana. There's a chance that you could feel a little bit safer in some of your playstyles and game decisions if you have a backup for Kinnan in your list and a little bit of redundancy. So I'm not gonna go as far as to say that Forensic Gadgeteer will be played in 4-color Thrasios lists as an additional Kinnan. I don't think so. You're the Dawnwaker expert here. I don't think that'll... Personally, I don't think that'll happen.
You have better options for it. You already have the Dawnwaker. No, I don't think you have the slot for it. You have better cards over it. And this is just the redundant piece for Basalt, which, to be honest, I have it because Kinnan is just too good to be in that list, and it just combos that. But it's the card I least like to draw when I'm playing that deck, because even if I have Kinnan out already or Kinnan in my hand, it's harder to go to tap 3 mana for a Basalt and just get countered or get Kinnan removed. You have that combo that you can go for, but it's just hard to set up, harder than the other ones. That's what I mean. So yeah, I don't think it would see play there, but as you said, low color Thrasios lists, you can think of it that you can also neoform Thrasios into this if you have Basalt out, and then just green blue again because you already have the infinite colorless, and go for it.
Yeah, that is a cool application, as long as you have mana to recast Thrasios, of course. Yeah, so for me, play it, stamped, approved, played in Urza. Played in Urza. Total. Played in Urza, tested in other places. Sure. Yeah, played in Urza. Like, ta-da, Urza has an instant include, which is great. We love seeing that. We love seeing a deck that was kind of maybe falling out of favor in the meta to get something that it can add to its main board without hesitating. Okay, moving on to the last card for blue. We have Reenact the Crime. Reenact the Crime is an instant, it's 1 and 3 blue, and says exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put into there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So, right away, let's kind of talk about the ceiling first, because 4 mana instants are rare in cEDH. That's normally talking about interaction, but for the most part, if we're going to play a 4 mana instant, we have to start comparing it to something like Ad Nauseam for 5 mana, and seeing whether or not we can win the game with just sinking this much mana into one thing. Anything beyond this would probably be like an X cost tutor, which is going to get you a win piece, And so reenact the crime, we're going to try to analyze if this, fits into that spectrum of cards. Now, let's just talk about the best things you could possibly get with this. You could get an ad nauseam. You could get a Peer into the Abyss. You could get an opponent's One Ring. You could also get something of your own if you had the mana to cast it.
You could actually not respond, but once your opponent casts an intuition on their end step and go get Breach, Savines, Brain Freeze, or LED, wherever the pieces they are missing, perhaps you can reenact the crime on the piece, on one of those, and in order for you to do something, depending on if you have the ability to go for it with the Born Upon Wind or not. But after an intuition, you could get that kind of stuff. You could get a Razorcat that it was just entombed.
Yeah, no, Razorcat Entombed is actually a really good play, because it doesn't have to be anything that's countered, it just has to be put in there from the graveyard from anywhere. So yeah, you can use it to hit intuitions, you can hit Razorcat, or any other type of reanimator effect. I think it's really versatile. It hits everything. Hits creatures, hits all non-lands. I don't know. I'm having a really hard time. Obviously, we have the giant list of things that it can hit. We know the scenario in which it will hit them, either at the end of a counter war, or off of an entomb. It can also be used proactively for your own stuff. If you have enough mana, of course, to actually get there. Like if something of yours is removed, you can reenact the crime and get it back again. And that includes stuff like counter magic. That one's a little tougher, as I assume if you're making any type of proactive play, you might not have the 3 blue and 1 colorless up to pull this off. This is actually one of the very rare tools that blue has for any type of graveyard recursion. Thinking about this on a more broad vision of stuff.
I think this could see play kind of easily on, not kind of easily, it's still triple blue, but I think this could see play in the new Heliod blue-white, because at some point you are just casting will into will into will, trying to find your outlet basically at instant speed, and maybe you draw these, and maybe this is either another will that you just cast this turn, so you are adding another will count to your deck list, or this is a dockside that your opponent discarded, or anything that your opponent discarded. I think this can actually see play in Heliod blue-white.
Yeah, I could see it in Heliod blue-white. I could also see it in Baral. Anyone who's playing Counterspell Tribal and is just hoping to actually take something from their opponents. I say test it. See what happens. Yep. I don't think this will make it in any of the bigger lists, but it's one of those things where I can say this won't make it in like a top tier list or a 4-color, 5-color list, but at the same time, you could win the game off of this. You could win the game off of an opponent getting their Underworld Breach countered, and you being able to then, breach followed by Born Upon the Wind and win a Throne. Like, you could. It depends on how well you view reactive plays against your opponents, whether or not you want to rely on your win con coming from somebody else. It falls, I kind of put it up there with stuff like Narset's Reversal, which is still played in some lists, or even Commandeer is played in some decks as well.
Commandeer is kind of free.
Commandeer is kind of free? Yeah, it's exiling 2 blue cards from your hand, right, for that cost. So there's some,
I think
some comparisons to make there.
Blue-black or blue-red would work.
Blue-white or blue-red?
Blue-white. So what I mean is, you could see it in Heliod blue-white or any blue-red or blue-black control lists. I think could see these.
Yeah, it would feel really good to get something off of a counterbalance trigger. Counterbalance trigger goes off, counter something, and then you reenact the crime.
And then, that's nice.
Yeah. So possible. There are some possible scenarios where this is pretty good. Test it out. See what happens.